Good day and welcome back to the Family Cyber Clinic. This week we are going to be answering a key question that many would agree would give them peace of mind whilst their young ones engage online. And the question is, how do I protect my young one from being groomed online? You see, with the growth of social media platforms, online games like we've covered in several videos we've released recently, others like instant messaging apps, children are able to talk with virtually anyone, friends or stranger, from around the world in a matter of minutes. And that's frightening. And because of that very frightening thought, we have to do something about it. And the clinic takes many of these things to heart. We've shared videos on other areas that are as disturbing: sexting, online pornography, gambling, online gaming. We've covered several videos, and in those videos we've shared the heart of the clinic, and we relate. We absolutely relate, and we need to know how to protect them from online grooming. And there are signs, but we need to protect them. The signs that it's already happened may be too late. So we're doing something about how to protect them from that issue in the first place. We know that kids can benefit from engaging online because it takes away the boredom and possible isolation, but it can also leave them vulnerable to being groomed, and we as parents need to pay attention. Based on online research carried out by Internet Matters, the online stranger danger is a huge concern, particularly for younger children. And the key thing to remember is that by equipping our children with the right advice to make smarter choices online, we can minimize the risks of exposure to online grooming. And so this today, we're going to share practical tips that parents, need to talk about whilst covering the issue of online grooming with their children, and thus protecting them as a result. And the first item that we need to cover with our young ones is that they should keep their personal information private. And we've shared a video on this. We've often said that the internet does not have a delete key. So once the information is out there, it's out there. But particularly with the online grooming approach or issue, private details which can identify our young ones in the real world, things like your name, age, gender, phone number, home address, school name, and indeed photographs, which we're finding that our young ones are eager and keen to share, should only be shared, with people that they know. I keep on repeating, the internet does not have a delete key. We don't want, oops, I just sent it. No. Be advised. So let our young ones know that they have to keep personal information private. The second, privacy settings. And again, we've covered this in videos. In fact, click on the playlist that is showing in the info card to consume that content. The clinic urges parents, or indeed the carers of these children, to spend time looking at the privacy settings on their device. Many kids now have a device. They have a tablet, they have a laptop. Yeah, they do. And so you need to look at the privacy settings. Sit down with them and do it together. It is always best to assume that the default settings on these online apps are set to public. Just assume that. And that way you will always be cautious. You always want to go to those settings and make sure that they're not set to public. So by default, it's set to public, which is not what we advise. So by assuming that, you would always make sure to check that it is indeed private and not public. So as a parent, you need to. I think when we shared a video on certifications, I, at the time, advised that before a young one watches a movie that is, say, 12A, you as the parents must go and watch the movie, digest the content, and you are the best person, especially if the child is underage, you are the best person to determine if that content is suitable for the child you are raising. The God-given privilege, okay? So it's no different here. You must understand the privacy settings of these apps, look at them first, and then when you're engaging your young one, you are able to inform them, on the right thing to do. But you must use those apps yourself so that you can get to grips with the holes that exist if certain settings are left as they are. I think next week we'll cover, or rather we'll create a video that will cover some child-friendly apps that our young ones can use first before they upgrade to the likes of Instagram and Snapchat or even Facebook. There are apps, age-appropriate social media apps that these kids can use. And yes, I think we must share that video. We'll share a video on it next week, just to complete this whole circle. But we must look at the privacy settings on our kids' devices with them and make sure they're set to private, okay? The third, and I'm going to rush this through now, know who their friends are. You don't stand a parent up. A child should not stand, an underage child should not stand up their parents and say, I don't want you to know my friends. No. Whilst you're in my house, whilst you're underage, I have a God-given, obviously don't drum it down their throat, but you get the idea. Amicably, make them know that it is for their interest, that they know, or rather you know the friends that they are running with. Talk to them about being cautious, about what they share with the people online. Remind them that even though people they've met online might feel like friends, they may not be who they say they are. And we've shared, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I shared a video. Again, click the link here to look at that video. You don't know who they are. So they may be very friendly and they sort of lure you in and then they go for the attack, or rather go on attack. And I don't want that to happen to anyone associated, anyone for that matter, whether you're associated with the platform or not. But get to know their friends, okay? The fourth, stay safe online and in real life. I know that a young one will not just go out anyhow into the streets when it's late, for example. That attitude should translate onto their online activities. Don't go into a dungeon. Don't go blind. Be informed. But you as a parent are the one, or you are the ones who get them prepped up for online engagement. Okay? Very key, very key. And then the final item or practical tip that we want to throw your way is that we must encourage our children to talk. Talk to someone. I'm praying that they talk to you as the parents, because that's your God-given privilege and right. But if they're not talking to you, it's still not the end of the world. Make sure you're encouraging them to talk to someone. Could be an uncle, could be an auntie, could be an elder brother, an elder sibling, but let them talk to someone. If something makes your child worried or uncomfortable online, their best course of action is always to talk to an adult or elder sibling that they trust. Of course, we have on the channel, we've pointed you to organizations like Childline if it gets to that level. But it's important. It's important that they're talking to someone, okay? Those were the few practical tips that I gathered online to share with you to make sure that you're prepped whilst you and your young one are engaging online. You have a huge responsibility to make sure that you are protecting them from online grooming. Okay? Good stuff. Okay, so as we do each week, we always look at things that are trending, and we share it with you during this time of our engagement together. And this week, we are being informed, at least I think it was last week, we're informed that there are smart watches designed for kids in 2020, and I hasten to add, late 2020, that still have security holes. They are marketed and they are targeting young ones. I'll let that stew a bit. Okay? That's frightening in 2020. Smart watches that still have the holes we spoke about when we shared a video. Again, click on the link that I'm pointing to in the info card. We talked about smart devices and IoT devices. And at the time I mentioned that many vendors are just pushing things to market without due diligence. We still have those items, in this case, the smartwatches, in the market that kids are putting on their wrist, and they are vulnerable to attack by rogues. And mostly it's the GPS feature where the parent is using the smartwatch to track the young one, but the rogue could abuse that and use it for other stuff. And so I would urge, the clinic would urge all parents who are, if you have, I'm not even going to go there, but you want your child to have a smartwatch so that you can monitor them whilst they're out of the home. I know other devices that will help you do that, like your mobile phone. But since the concentration is on smartwatches, if you are purchasing a smartwatch, make sure you're getting it from a reputable vendor. And the three vendors we will recommend, only because I've used them, are Apple, Samsung, and Huawei. Those are the three that I've used who have made a lot of effort to make sure that those holes that I mentioned do not exist. And that is what you must do. In fact, if you're going online or you go into a store to purchase a smartwatch, I encourage you to ask the vendor, what have you done to secure this device from rogues when my kid wears this and goes out? Hear them out. Now, if they have no answer, I would suggest you move away very swiftly from that shop. We must hold them to account. As I said, in late 2020, it is just too late, to still have these vulnerabilities on these smart devices. Okay? So I thought I'll get that to you so that you are informed and you are prepped. Make sure you're not buying a smartwatch for your young one from dodgy sources. Make sure you're buying it from a reputable, okay? Reputable, I repeat, a reputable vendor. Good stuff. Okay, the PowerPoint for this week. The road to life is a disciplined life. Ignore correction and you'll be lost for good. I'm your host, Cyber Pastor Lawrence Edem. Until next week, God bless and goodbye